Hello, everybody. I'm Lorenzino Estrada.
And I am Reno Del Toro.
And this is Fully Charged, an NFL podcast that's talking about breaking news in the NFL as well as fantasy football and currently the top 100 list. In Reno, we are at 70 to 61. But before we do that, there's some news in the NFL. You know, Jared Cook signs a contract with the New Orleans Saints. Vontaze Burfict's going to Oakland to play for the Raiders. And the NFL just passed a rule where now offensive and defensive pass interference calls can now be challenged. That's a big rule, obviously coming from the NFC Conference Championship game with the New Orleans Saints and Los Angeles Rams, and obviously a whole lot of other games that have been decided by penalties like that. But that's a big rule for the NFL.
Yeah, you talked about it. This whole collusion, this whole thing that's happened with the playoff games, how pass interference is not going to get reviewed, and no one's really going to talk about it that much. And all of a sudden, you know, the meeting's happening here in Arizona, and they're like, you know what, let's talk about this. Everybody's calling it the Saints rule, you know, that's what we're calling it. And, you know, it was a big thing, not only in the playoffs, but in the regular season. A big example of it was the New Orleans Saints versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the first possession was, of course, shouldn't have been a pass interference by Joe Hayden. They ended up being called, which led up to an Alvin Kamara touchdown on the one. A lot of instances, that was just one that came up to my mind, but a lot of instances where teams would love to challenge the call on the field, especially the pass interference call, because it could be spot foul, it could be, you know, it could be crucial late in the games when you need it the most, and a PI happens. You're like, why is the PI? And then they show the replay, and they're like, why is there pass interference? There could be some controversy with this as well, because people are going to look at this and be like, okay, so now the refs are actually going to control the game with the pass interference and the reviewing, and it can lead to a lot of things. Of course, they're going to look at it. People, I believe, in New York is going to look at it, see if this is a right call. Me personally, I do like this decision. I feel like it is really good to have the NFL, you know, go back on calls like this to make sure they got it right, because yet again, you know, you see in other leagues and other sports where when the call is made on the field, it stands as corrected. It stands as called. The NFL is at least doing this one penalty where you'd be like, okay, we're going to review it. We're going to take some looks at it. If we think it was a flag, it's going to stand. And if not, we're going to change the call on the field. Good for the NFL. I want them to talk about the overtime rule, because I think that's another one that needs to be talked about where, you know, me personally, I'm sick and tired of a team just getting the ball to start the game, and they just keep the ball for the entire game, and they score a touchdown, and the game's over. The other team does not get the opportunity to get a touchdown, another opportunity to score points. And we saw it with the Patriots game and the other championship game where the Patriots got the ball, held the ball, went the other way, and got a touchdown. And the Chiefs, who basically the best offense in the NFL, didn't even get their team on the field for that overtime. So they need to change that. Maybe go to a college system where they start at like the 30-yard line or maybe the 25. They just go back and forth with each other until there's one winner, one defense prevails, one offense prevails, and the winner, of that game would have gone to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, about the pass interference rule, I really like the rule. Now, obviously, you can't challenge plays within 2 minutes, so now, very questionable pass interference and offense pass interference calls, they can be reviewed within 2 minutes. That's crucial. That changes the way the NFC Conference Championship goes, kind of like what you said with the AFC Conference Championship, this time just with penalties. I think it's a very, very good rule for the NFL, and I think what they're going to do is be able to crack down on these. Now, I haven't gotten into the weeds on this and anything like that, but from the surface level, it seems like a good rule, and they're really going to crack down on that. For overtime rule, now you can get the ball back. You just have to play good defense. Yeah. And if you can't play good defense, then you lose the game. That's the way I see it. Yeah. Play good defense, you get the ball back. Hold them to a field goal, you're going to get the ball back. If you can't play good defense, then I don't think you really deserve to win that game anyway. So I'm fine with the current overtime rule. Okay. But, Reno, let's continue with this top 100 list. And it starts at 70, and with a quarterback who, I'm going to go ahead and admit it right now, was wrong. Because I said when he was drafted, this quarterback, that he was going to be the worst bust in NFL history. I thought he was going to be worse than Leaf and Manziel and those guys, Blaine Gabbert, but Baker Mayfield has I mean, he has galvanized a city. You know, he's the new face of Cleveland. I mean, LeBron's not there anymore, and it's Baker Mayfield now. And obviously, they just got Odell Beckham, and a new coach in Freddie Kitchens. This team they're looking to be electric, and it's behind that young quarterback who's got a lot of swag to him. I still don't like him. I just don't like the guy, but what he did in his rookie season was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, you talked about it. I was a big fan of Baker Mayfield coming in to the NFL from Oklahoma, the Heisman winner. He brought that one thing that I like in quarterbacks, which is confidence. If my quarterback has confidence, I'm gonna ride behind him. And sure enough, they put him in the game. Tyrod Taylor swamp him out on that Thursday night game. And you know what he does, Lawrence? He gets the job done. The curse is over. Cleveland is now a winner, and the Bud Lights are open. They can get the Bud Lights now because they don't have the chain around. And Baker Mayfield has led a revolution in the city of Cleveland. He played 14 games. He threw over 3,725 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. This man, literally, the sky is perfect for him because he is one of those quarterbacks that he can run with the football. He has that accuracy pretty dang well. He can do everything you need in a quarterback, especially in this new age of offense we see in the NFL. Baker Mayfield can do it, and he's got a good offensive line. We saw the two running backs. They have three running backs if you include Kareem Hunt, if he's going to play for the Browns next year. You talked about it. They added Odell Beckham. They have Jarvis Landry. David Njoku is a guy that's going to come into his own at tight end. I'm excited for this Browns offense, but Baker Mayfield is the leader that you need. He's 23 years old. He's not even in the prime of his career. We already saw what he can do in his first year when given the opportunity, and he looks pretty dang good, Lawrence. He would probably. I'm going to say this, and I hate saying it, but next year Baker Mayfield is going to be the king of the North, new king of the North. The Browns are probably going to win that division. And it's because of this man. He's everything you need in a quarterback and more. He's the leader of the Browns. The Browns finally got the quarterback they were looking for with the Johnny Manziel and they had Quinn and Hoyer and Colt McCoy. They had everybody you can think of all these great college football quarterbacks that just didn't pan out in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is not that guy, and he proved it last season in his rookie campaign.
Yeah, and there were a lot of questions coming into the draft whether or not he was going to be, a franchise quarterback for the team. The main question was his height. Is he big enough to play quarterback? He got a lot of Drew Brees comparisons and things like that. And does he have it? Yeah, obviously you can light it up in college. Just, go ask Cliff Kingsbury. You can do all those things, right? College is literally a sandbox, of new ideas when it comes to the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. And so anybody, and we see it from all these busts, year in, year out. They could put it together in college, but whether or not they can actually put it all together in the NFL, that's a big question. Baker Mayfield, in his rookie year, granted, has done it, and I want to see the sophomore year. We know the sophomore slump. Yeah. It happens to a lot of quarterbacks. These teams are now going to have film on him, but considering that they just got Odell Beckham and it's an offensive-minded team, I think it's going to be really hard for them. And with the division that they're in right now, Baltimore, I think even despite Earl Thomas, I think they went down significantly on the defensive side of football. I think Pittsburgh is on the way to a rebuild. Once Big Ben retires, what's the other? Cincinnati is that usual. Cincinnati's the usual 7-9, 6-10 maybe this year. Yeah, I think Cleveland's going to run away with the North, like what you said. I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch. They're going to be one of the best teams to watch this upcoming year. 14 interceptions on the year. You want to see that go down, but that's pretty good for rookie year. Right. And then the 55.7 QBR, you obviously want to see that go up. Mm-hmm. But there was another quarterback, young quarterback, who we're going to see here next, and that was Mitchell Trubisky, who led the Chicago Bears under this Matt Nagy offense. In his rookie season, he struggled a little bit, right. But then you get the offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy, in, and he revolutionizes the game of Mitchell Trubisky, and all of a sudden they go to the playoffs. Granted, it's an early exodus from the playoffs, but he got them there.
Yeah, Lawrence, and the one thing you got to really look at Mitchell Trubisky this year is he improved a lot from that rookie year. We saw how terrible it was. And then a new coach just comes in, and Matt Nagy, and all of a sudden it just changed for Baker Mayfield. The defense was on point, and that offense was really electric under Mitchell Trubisky at the helm. That completion percentage went from 59% to 66%, improved. He surpassed his total yardage by over 1,000 yards with 3,223 this year. He had 7 touchdowns last season. He had 24 this year. The production increased mightily for Mitchell Trubisky. And granted, he had some weapons that, came in and out, but mostly it was just a down year for his offensive weapons. He didn't really have a reliable tight end. Trey Burton was, up and down sometimes of the season. Jordan Howard was not the running back we expected to see this year. The 2 wide receivers, especially Allen Robinson, didn't produce this year like we thought he would. And Tariq Cohen, who is on this list, and we'll talk about later, he was all over he had his good games and he had his bad games. So basically that offense was led by Mitchell Trubisky the whole year, and he did it all, and it was explosive. That boy can run with the football, he can pass with the football. He's like I said with Baker, he's everything you need in a quarterback in this new wave of this offensive schemes. And that's what you want to see as a coach. You want to see your quarterback improving, because if your quarterback's improving, your team is improving. And that's what we saw with the Chicago Bears this year, from going from last place in the North to winning the North. Yet again, like you said, first round, I call it first round exit because they didn't really do that much. But, I still think that if the direction for the Chicago Bears is straight, they're going to look good. They're going to probably go to the championship game this year. We don't know yet. A lot of other teams can just come out of nowhere and just take the NFC or the AFC by storm. And but Mitchell Trubisky, people said last year that the Bears didn't really need to go from 3-2 and give up all that they had to do because Trubisky was going to be there anyway. And I'm pretty sure to this day, I believe he should have been picked at 3 instead of them jumping at 2. But the Bears rushed it. But Mitchell Trubisky has been the quarterback that they wanted, especially after this last season's performance. Year 3, in my opinion, yes, year 1 and 2 are really important, but in my opinion, year 3 is what we need to see, because year 1, okay, you're getting your feet wet. Year 2, you're learning how to walk. Now you're learning how to run here in year 3. So we've seen quarterbacks, struggle the first year, do good in the second year, and then struggle the third year, or vice versa, where they struggle and then they're great, and then they just hit that wall in year 3. I want to see what Mitchell Trubisky can bring to the table next season, because we saw it this last season. So I want to see that more production, maybe be that echelon of that top, 15, top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. But who knows? He can take one step wrong, and it could just go downhill from there.
Yeah, and I still have questions about Mr. Trubisky. The rookie year he struggled. The team only went 4-8 when he was starting for them, but keep in mind he only played 1 full season at North Carolina. So he was just, considering the games that he's played. How many games are in a college season? 12, and then he plays 12 in 2017. That's 24, and then he plays those other games. He only played 38 games in his entire career, and that's counting college. So this is a very young quarterback who is still extremely early into his career. And I really I'm looking at the completion percentage his rookie year. He went 59.4, jumps up all the way to 66%, close to 67. That's a big jump from the rookie to sophomore year. Now, obviously, it helps that you have a offensive-minded coach, and we see that now. Everybody wants to go get the Sean McVay, right? We're seeing that in Arizona. We're here in Arizona right now, and what Sean McVay did with the Rams, and then we're hoping now that it's going to be Freddie Kitchens with Baker Mayfield and Adam Gase with Sam Darnold in New York. Everybody's trying to get that offensive-minded coach for the young quarterback, and it worked in Los Angeles, obviously, and it's working here in Chicago. And you said, the NFC is stacked. It's the best division of both, but Chicago has what it takes because they have the defense for that, and they have the offensive weapons. You said Allen Robinson struggled. He did. But, this is his first year in the system. Let's see if he can come into his own. When you got a guy like Tariq Cohen, personally, I don't think Jordan Howard's going to be there at the start of the season. I think he's going to get moved somewhere. Tariq Cohen, you probably draft another running back as well. You have Trey Burton, and you're still adding to that offense. But when you got Khalil Mack on the other side of the defense and all those really good guys, obviously you've lost a few. Yeah. You lost Amos, guys like that. So I think they're going to be a really good team, and they have a very good possibility of winning the NFC North, even though Green Bay has made some pretty good moves.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Chicago Bears, Reno, he is electric, and I first knew of Tariq Cohen when I actually didn't know it was him until I saw it, like a long time later. This viral video that came out with the guy who he does a backflip, and mid backflip he catches two footballs.
Yeah,
I did not know that was Tariq Cohen. And this is a guy that came from North Carolina A&T, and he's now one of the most electric players in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Tariq Cohen, the human joystick is what they call him, because you look at it, it's like a play in Madden. He can go from the backfield all the way to the end zone. You're like, how did he do that? I believe the game that I really looked this year where I'm like, dang, Tariq Cohen is really this good was like that New York Giants game. He can do it all. He can catch the ball. He can run with the football. He throw a touchdown pass just to throw on some stats. But Tariq Cohen is he's electrifying, Lawrence. I thank whoever dropped him in fantasy football because I picked him up and he was on my team the whole year and a lot of points just happened. But he's that dual threat running back that we see now in the NFL where he can run the ball. I mean, he might not run it that well. He only had 444 total yards of rushing this whole year. But yet again, he was, like you said, he was splitting with Jordan Howard majority of the year. So take credit there. But he was a third down back, and you know what they need for third down backs? You need someone that can catch the ball. And Lawrence, he did that. He had 725 yards in receiving with 71 receptions and 5 touchdowns. I need a guy that can get points in fantasy football. This guy is the man. And he did it all this year. He did everything you needed for a running back. And for the Bears, another guy that really was that big important keystone that they had on offense that just led them to win the North. Kudos because he's more of a special teams guy. We've seen him in special teams just have that bunny ears and he just takes off with the football. I mean, he made the first team All-Pro this year in special teams, of course. But he's just electric. He's just electric. He reminds me of another Bear, and that was Devin Hester. Just so electric. I mean, the only problem that Tariq Cohen has that Devin Hester didn't is, he's a running back. He should be able to run the football, but I'm pretty sure that will increase by this season. And Devin Hester couldn't catch the football. He was a great return man, but he can never catch the football. Tariq Cohen is both. He can catch the football, and he's a good return man. So the Bears got that dual threat, and it showed this year. Like I said, made the first team All-Pro. He was selected to a Pro Bowl. He was everything the Bears needed and more. And that's what you want to see in a running back, especially in a short running back like Tariq Cohen, who can get into those spaces and make some moves and, press that B button and get that spin and hurdle over people. He can do that. And me personally, I love Tariq Cohen. He deserves to be on this list. I think personally he should be up higher because he's just that guy that, takes that next step. But you know what? Tariq Cohen right here at a perfect spot at 68. I like it. There's going to be a big increase from this season to next.
Yeah, I mean he's a PPR machine if you're playing that in fantasy football and what he's done for that team. Jordan Howard had a down year. I felt like every time I watched the Chicago Bears game, granted I didn't watch many, but every time I watched the Chicago Bears game, it was Jordan Howard, won the 2-yard run, and then you got Tariq Cohen over here, catching that 7-yard wheel route or the slant. He's a fun player to watch, and he made his first Pro Bowl this year. He got on the All-Pro team as well. And when you have 725 receiving yards, you are more like a receiver than a running back. But he's been able to do it both, and he had a pretty good year, and it's going to get even better in 2019. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense didn't make the headlines that it did. It was still the second best defense in the NFL. It just didn't make the headlines it did last year due to the record that they had. But Calais Campbell, when he signed over from Arizona, not a lot of people thought that was going to be a huge upgrade for them. Instead, while he's with Jacksonville, he's having some of the best years of his career. He's aging like fine wine, Reno.
Yeah, I mean, I would have let you just take the floor with Calais Campbell because you're the Jaguars guy. But, Calais Campbell, no matter what he does, he's really dang good at it. And you would think, man's getting older. He's not going to get to the quarterback a lot because he ain't that fast anymore. He doesn't have that strength anymore. But I think Jacksonville hit it on the like hit a home run because since he's joined Jacksonville, it's just been a show to watch with Calais Campbell, especially when he goes after that quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. Calais Campbell should be a Hall of Famer no matter what, and he's proven it not only when he was with the Cardinals, but he proved it again with the Jaguars. The Jaguars defense in as a whole didn't, like you said, didn't get that much credit because they were there 24/7 because the offense couldn't get the job done at all. Blake Bortles couldn't throw the football. The running game, they had, I don't know how many running backs they had total this season because Leonard Fournette got hurt. And the receivers just, they couldn't catch balls at all, and they couldn't split from the defenders, and it was all over the place. And that defense just had to be on the field consistently over and over and over again. But then you find those bright spots. You see Jalen Ramsey being the top corner in the NFL, and then you see Talon Smith being one of those best linebackers in the league. Fast, can cover. But when you look at the D line, you say it the most. Trenches is where it happens. The offensive line versus D line. Whoever can win the trenches will probably win the football game. And most of the time, it didn't happen this year for Jacksonville because, in most part, Yannick Ngakoue, who we already had in this list, he's trying to do everything he can. And Calais Campbell's the same way, and it didn't pan because they just had to be on that field over and over again. You know it most. When the defense is on the field the most, they're going to struggle the most. But I feel like that wasn't the case for Calais Campbell. He's just like fine white, gets better over time, and you saw it with Calais Campbell this year that he takes that leadership, that leader role to another and that next level. He sees the players on defense, they're slacking or they don't want to play anymore because they see where the season's going up. But Calais Campbell always kept that defense intact. He said, you know what, we're not going to give up. He has that leader mindset which every football team needs to have. And when a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, is telling you, hey, come on, we got a couple minutes in this game. We can make some plays and we can get back into this game. When that guy is on the field, I want to be a part of him. Calais Campbell will 100% always probably be on this list until he retires, Lorenzo. That's how good Calais Campbell is. And I think he will agree that it doesn't matter his overall performance this season. It matters about the team. I'm pretty sure he's really upset about this last season, but Calais Campbell will get back up. The Jaguars will start new with Nick Foles under the helm. He'll probably have a better year than he did this last season, but Calais Campbell deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, his first year in Jacksonville, he goes for 14.5 sacks. Second year, 10.5. The drop-off isn't much. But this season, he was the highest-graded defensive end in all of the NFL. Not a lot of people are going to talk about that, And what he's done with Yannick Ngakoue as well. Ngakoue came in as a rookie, and Calais was there and he taught him. Not his rookie year, but when Ngakoue was growing, and he was coming into his sophomore year, Calais Campbell was there and he helped him. And if you see the interviews of Yannick Ngakoue, he's always talking highly of his mentor in Calais Campbell. And obviously got some young guys there on the defensive line. The last first-round pick for the Jaguars, Taven Bryan, he is also learning from Calais Campbell as well. And he's the leader of that defense right now. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey is the face of the defense, but really the leader and the one that is making sure that everyone is disciplined is Calais Campbell. And you said they hit a home run. Quite literally, that's his sack celebration, the home run. And that's what he's brought to Jacksonville so far. And he has been electric. And, I hope he finishes out the rest of his contract here in Jacksonville with us. I'm sure, though, and I'm pretty sure about this, there will be a 1-year contract to go back to Arizona in the final year. No, I think he'll play one more season in Arizona. Okay. And I think my opinion is that he's on a 4-year contract right now. He just got done with his second year. I think Jacksonville will trade him after this third year, and he'll trade him back to Arizona, and he'll finish his career out there. He doesn't have much time left in his career. He's played a lot. Hall of Fame, that's a big one. I don't think that yet. I think he's got to do something and not that he hasn't done anything in the playoffs because he has played well, but I think he's got to get that ring because that ring is just. It's eluded Larry, and now it's eluding Calais Campbell and all the Cardinals players, man.
Why else do you think Jason Witten came back? He's like, I don't have my ring yet. I gotta come back and get a ring.
Well, you signed with the wrong team. I'm sorry. You signed with the wrong team if you want to get that ring. But you just said it. Jason Witten signed with a team. This guy that we're about to talk about, he was not going to be on the list at all. Then all of a sudden, he gets traded to the Dallas Cowboys, and Amari Cooper is now the main target in Dallas. He's their new Dez Bryant. He could be even bigger than that. And Amari Cooper, he really turned that offense around for Dallas.
Can I just say how great Amari Cooper is? I've liked Amari Cooper since he was in Alabama. I was singing his praises when he was in Oakland. I'm singing his praises in Dallas. He made me love watching the Cowboys again. I hate saying that. I do, but Amari Cooper is the real deal. When Oakland traded away Amari Cooper for a first round pick and Dallas, decided to give it to them, people were like, "Are you serious? Like, are you kidding me?" Well, it worked out for them because they got Antonio Brown, but Amari Cooper for Dallas was just a home run for them. He's only 24 years old, and his production in Oakland was not the best. We saw he only had 280 yards, maybe because that's how bad Derek Carr is. But he comes to Dallas, he works on his offense, and boy, oh boy, things have shifted so good for Amari Cooper. And I don't know how many times he's done it. He had a 48 PPR game against the Giants and the Redskins on Thanksgiving. This man was another machine, and he proved it when he got to Dallas. He was the man. He had 53 receptions, 725 yards, and 6 touchdowns in his span with the Dallas Cowboys this year in the 9 games that he played. And he was a big factor in the reason why they made that push to make the playoffs. There wasn't one guy in that locker room that's like, you know what, Amari Cooper wasn't a big help, because Amari Cooper was a big help for the Cowboys. He's got everything you need in a receiver. He can catch the ball. He's fast, and people need to look and see how he gets out of the gates when he runs routes, because I think Amari Cooper's probably the best at it when it comes to running routes out of the gate. The man can, he could start out slow, maybe jog, but then all of a sudden he just turns on the jacks and he's gone. And that's what Amari Cooper brings to the table. Not only do you have Zeke and Dak, and you're bringing back Jason Witten, and you have a great offensive line, but now the wide receiver group is going to look at Amari Cooper and it'll be like, wow, this guy can be the next big thing. He's, like I said, he's only 24 years old. And it's funny too, because I'm going to compare this, but him and Dez Bryant are 2 different receivers. Dez Bryant was the guy who's like, hey, double team me, I'm going to catch the ball whenever I can, whatever, I'm just going to catch the ball. And Amari Cooper's the opposite. He just burns defenders out of nowhere and runs great routes, and he can run that way. And it's funny how Dak Prescott's worked with both of them. He's seen the production from both of them. And now Dak has that receiver again in Amari Cooper that he can just throw the ball on. He won't have any problems with it. He really turned some heads when he went to Dallas, and this was a great pickup by the Cowboys. He deserves a spot, and I hope the production increases. I guarantee he'll probably get 1,000 yards plus receiving next year. And he looks good in this offense. I really trust the Cowboys to not mess this up at all. That connection they have with Dak and Cooper and Zeke in the backfield. Hopefully Dallas can go far this year now that Amari's already, used to the system, out of those 9 games, and of course the playoffs including. But hopefully he's used to it and he can make that strong push to, maybe go higher in this list next year, maybe in the 30s or the 40s, because that's how good Amari Cooper is probably going to be in the NFL.
Yeah, and wide receivers, they're very critical to that quarterback, and especially with Dak Prescott, he has that protection to help him be that quarterback that he is. And you got Amari Cooper out there, number 1 receiver, and how special he is when it comes to the route running. He has done a fantastic job at that. And now we're going to go stick on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to go to the trenches, Reno, and that's in Green Bay. David Bakhtiari has been protecting Aaron Rodgers for, it seems like, forever.
Yeah, first team All-Pro, David Bakhtiari, the best tackle in the game at this moment. You talk about a guy that doesn't get hurt, and you talk about a guy that doesn't allow the quarterback to get sacked. It's Bakhtiari. He is that guy, that white collar, blue collar guy that he'll do a lot to protect his quarterback. He'll push people around. He won't really get penalties a lot. Really go with his hands. And for a heavy guy, that's what you want to see. And you talk about the best pass rushers. David Bakhtiari has to go against some of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Talk about Danielle Hunter. You talk about Khalil Mack. You talk about Linval Joseph. He's going to go against Trent Flowers this year. And he's going to probably be on top of his game this year. In my opinion, he had a better year last year, but didn't make first team All-Pro. This year he made first team All-Pro. It shows you how good a left tackle is in the NFL. And he's just consistent. He doesn't give up anything. He doesn't even have penalties. He doesn't have false starts. He plays every snap that you need him to play. He's the guy that you need in your offensive line. And guys that I get a comparison for him, the guy that reminds me of Bakhtiari is Nick Mangold, the former center for the Jets. He reminds me of just, he's going to get the job done if you need him the most, and he'll protect the quarterback. You don't have to look at any other player to protect the quarterback other than that one dude. And it's good to see that your left tackle is the guy that's the best player on your offensive line, because it shows in Green Bay, because you see Aaron Rodgers go outside the pocket, make fantastic plays with his arm, and you see the blocking, and you're like, how is he this open? Why is he just dancing around in and out of the pocket? Well, because he's got a good offensive line that's led by David Bakhtiari. I mean, what else do you need from him? He's everything you need in offensive lineman, and I want David Bakhtiari I want him to get paid more, but who knows? Bakhtiari is really good at what he does, and hopefully he does get that payday.
Yeah, and it feels like Aaron Rodgers sits in that pocket forever, right? All of these miracles that Aaron Rodgers orchestrates, it's not without the help of that offensive line, and they go through a lot of injuries actually, but it seems like they always have the guys in position, especially David Bakhtiari, to protect Aaron Rodgers and to keep him safe. Granted, Rodgers has been injured a lot quite recently, and he just kind of needs to get his footing back again to continue to be one of the most talented, if not the most talented quarterback in the NFL. But Bakhtiari, he's a first-team All-Pro this year, and he definitely played like it. And a player that remained healthy this season, and that was a question surrounding Keenan Allen. He's a special guy, and he plays amazing, but the asterisk was he has to stay healthy. And he puts together this season, Reno, where he goes for 1,200 yards, essentially, with 6 touchdowns. And he is just that guy for Phillip Rivers, And Phillip Rivers there was a lot of receivers there for Phillip Rivers. You got the Williams, and then you had Keenan Allen. But Keenan Allen is he's that guy. He runs routes perfectly. He's a physical wide receiver. He can go up and get it in the end zone. He's just a reliable target from anywhere on the field. You can put him outside, you can put him in the slot, and he's always going to make that play for you.
Yeah, and he's huge, too. He's 6'2". I mean, I need a guy that can catch the ball. I need a guy that runs a route. I need a guy that's fast. I'd take Keenan Allen. You talked about it. He needs to stay healthy on the field. And this year, I mean, he didn't play all 16 games this year. He only played 14, but still, that's pretty damn freaking good, if you ask me. Selected to the Pro Bowl the last 2 seasons. He's had a resurgence. 26 years old, doing everything he can. You talked about it. He went over 1,000 yards again this season. 90-plus receptions, what you needed in a wide receiver. And, I think he was the only option that they had for the Chargers all year, Phillip Rivers, other than Melvin Gordon. But you look at Keenan Allen, and you talked about, and you touched it a lot, that he needs to stay healthy. I mean, when that terrible span where he went 8 and then 1 in 2015, 2016, that's a question, Lawrence, But you know what he did the last 2 years? He's done all 16, He's been over there just hopping around and actually playing. He started 15 last season. Like I said, he started 14 this season. And he's remained healthy, and we are accustomed to seeing what Keenan Allen can do every week on the gridiron, and he does it with ease. You see double teams, and you got a safety over the top, and it doesn't bother him because he's Keenan Allen. He can do everything you need him to do. Of course, people are going to debate he's a top 5 receiver, he's a top 10 receiver. In my opinion, he's a top 10 receiver. I don't think he edges in top 5, and you'll see in this list other receivers that are ahead of him. But with a guy that can do that in an offense that is led by Phillip Rivers and wants to just run the football as much as they can, but when they can throw the ball and you have a guy like Keenan Allen, it makes you a deadly team because you can just throw the ball whenever you need to, and then you can put Keenan Allen. You can say, you know what, run a route. I'm gonna throw it to you, but then you can say, hey, Keenan, you want to run the football for me? Because he's proven he's ran the football a lot too this year. He had 9 rushes for 75 yards. He can do it. He can do it. He can put him anywhere. Keenan Allen's going to make some plays. A big reason why the offense was so good for the Chargers, and hopefully this Chargers team remains consistent on offense. We talk about defense. Yes, they had injuries last year a lot. Probably the most injury-riddled teams last season, but they can remain healthy, and that offense can get something going. Hunter Henry's back. Keenan Allen doesn't have to worry about 2 guys defending him because he'll have all these other weapons around him back for this upcoming season, and he'll increase that production from that 2017 where he went for 1,393, and then this year for 1,196, and he can go for 1,400, and increase that touchdown from 6 to like 10, 8. That's what we want to see from Keenan Allen. The production will probably be there next season for Keenan Allen if, like you said, he remains on the field. But over the last couple of years, I like Keenan Allen being on the field, and I love the production he's brought to the Chargers offense.
Yeah, and he's just, he doesn't, talk a lot of trash. He's very quiet, and he's very reserved to himself. And he's one of my favorite receivers in the NFL, and I hope he stays healthy, because I actually had him in fantasy for, like, those 3 consecutive seasons where he got injured. It was like torn ACL, and then it was like lacerated kidney. And I was like, man, I can't, like, in a very selfish way, I was like, man, I can't catch a break with this guy. So then I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do it this year. And then, the very good season that Keenan Allen has. Yeah. Going back to the Packers, though, Reno, Blake Martinez, the linebacker, Jake Ryan got in. He's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He got injured before the start of the season, and that posed a lot of questions for this Packers defense. Now, granted, they didn't play up to their expectations, but considering the fact that Jake Ryan goes down before the start of the season, Blake Martinez stepped up.
I mean, I'm already accustomed to seeing Blake Martinez make plays. He was one of the league leaders in tackles last season, and yet again, he was one of the league leaders in tackles this season. He had 142 last season. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to improve it, 144. And he does it all for the Green Bay Packers. What you need in a linebacker where he can cover anywhere. He's consistent too. This year he didn't really have any like picks or anything, but when it comes to tackling, he was there when you needed him. And when it comes to quarterback hits, he was there when he needed him. He had his most quarterback hits this season was 6. Yet, like I said, he had the 144 tackles. 91 of those came solo, and the other 53 were assisted. But I mean, this guy, he's what you need for a linebacker in Green Bay. You talk about the youth movement starting, and I mean, people are going to talk about, Alexander, and now they have Amos, and you talk about every player on that defense, but I think the most important guy is your middle linebacker, and that's Blake Martinez. He's also young, he's 24. He deserved to be on this list last season, but I didn't put him last season because I didn't think that production would increase or decrease, or I don't know what would occur, but this season, he proved to me, like, hey, man, not only can I remain healthy, but I can be the one good cornerstone piece of this defense. Now he's surrounding himself with, the corners got a little bit younger, another year under the system. The D-line improved. We saw Smith, and now they had the other Smith. And then the second, like I said, the linebackers improved. They lost Jake Ryan, but when you can add more linebackers to your core, that's pretty dang good. I have nothing against this man because he does everything you need. I wish I had him because we're struggling at linebacker. But, Blake Martinez is consistent, and that's what you need in a linebacker, someone that's always going to be consistent and can play everywhere you need him to play on the football field, guarding tight ends, guarding slot receivers. He can do it all, and he can make the plays.
Yeah, 91 tackles on 5 sacks. He has been one of those players on that defense that hasn't had a lot of success. And he's out there, and he is that diamond in the rough for them. They call him Boar. That's his nickname. I didn't know that. I talked about it last episode. These Pro Football Focus or reference nicknames, I don't know if they're true at all. But what I do know is true is that Hakeem Hicks had a very good season for the Chicago Bears. He goes for 7.5 sacks, 41 tackles. And another member of that Chicago Bears defense. That defense just put it all together. They have all these guys on the defensive line like Hicks, Khalil Mack, Leonard Floyd, all of those guys, they're making plays. And with the talent that they had in the secondary, I'm surprised they didn't go further. I'm surprised they did not beat the Eagles.
Yeah, you talked about it. The consistency is there. Ever since he got to Chicago, we've seen him just become this big monster. And it hurts me to see this, but he's been in the league since 2002. And, his first, couple starts and first couple seasons, it did not go well. I mean, he was traded twice in 2015. And then he signs to Chicago, and the production increases. He went from 4.5 to 2, 3, and 3 in all the seasons he was traded. And then he gets to Chicago, and look at the numbers. 7 sacks, 8.5, 7.5 this year. just been a tackling machine with 54, 54, 55, and that's a guy that you need on the D line. We talked about how big the trenches are, and this defensive line was one of the best in the NFL, probably the best in the NFL. People are gonna question, what about the Vikings defensive line? They're so good, but I mean, when you have Khalil Mack and Nakeem Hicks, I'm fine. I'm fine. I mean, I think I'll take them too because they proved this year that they can get to the quarterback and get to the quarterback quick. Strength in numbers is the motto that the Bears will probably take next year because I know that's the Warriors slogan and I don't care.
That's what I was like. What is that? I thought it was Cavs.
But you need the strength, and the Bears have the strength, and Nakeem Nicks brings the strength. We talk about Khalil Mack, and we'll talk about him later because we already know he's in the top 10. But I mean, when you talk about Hakeem Nicks, this is a great guy to, match up with because he brings. Not only does he bring that edge rusher that you need in a football team, but he also brings on leadership because he's been in the league for a while, and he's been on different teams, so he's been around that struggle, and since he's joined Chicago, he's been really good. He made the Pro Bowl this year, so it's improving. He's improving with age, and that's good to see him do that. And I'm looking forward to next season because I have a feeling he might get to 10 sacks at age 30, which that'd be cool to see because any guy that really, struggled in the beginning of his career and just went from team to team, and then all of a sudden he finds that one team that loves him to death, and he can bring that protection and make some plays. That's the guy I want to see on my team, and that's the guy that I wanted to get that big contract, but I probably won't happen because he's 30. But what he brings to the table to the Chicago Bears is really cool to see, and I hope he keeps up with the production heading into next season. And hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers, hopefully he makes the Pro Bowl again because he was really fun to watch this year's Pro Bowl.
Yeah, we've gone through 9 players, Reno, and we are finally here at the last one. And another defensive player we're going to end on, and he is a young linebacker with lots of potential. He goes for 90 tackles this year with 4 sacks as well. Helped that Los Angeles Rams defense, and that's Corey Littleton. Played an excellent game in the Super Bowl. Played well throughout the entire playoffs. But this is a very young linebacker who is probably destined for a very long career of success.
Yeah, you talk about Corey Littleton, and you know what people really see about Corey Littleton is how great he is in coverage. I mean, you talked about the tackles and what he does, but he's really good in coverage. People forget he had 3 picks this season, and for a linebacker, that's what I want to see. I want a guy that can make some plays, and if I got a guy that can make picks, I'm good. One of those picks ended up being a touchdown. So defensive points, give me all of those. And Corey Littleton, 25 years old, can still get the job done. Not still, but can get the job done. And like I said, really good in coverage. You talked about the tackles. He did really well. He improved a lot from 31 combined last season to 125 this season. And he also improved in other areas, such as the interceptions, like I said. He went from 1 to 3. So that in particular was really important. And he had 1 forced fumble last season. Well, not this year, but he will in this upcoming season. But I'm looking to see that production increase from him because you talk about all these superstars that the Rams have on defense, and it's crazy to think that Ndamukong Suh still hasn't been signed yet. But he makes plays up and down the field, and now he gets Clay Matthews as his teammate to help him, learn some more about how to be good in coverage and how to tackle, because Clay Matthews is one of the best to get to the quarterback of all time. We talked about all-time sacks leaders in Green Bay Packers history, and he probably wants to increase that sack ratio from 4 to maybe 8, maybe 9. That would be a big increase at a middle linebacker position. He's got the radio in the helmet. He's the guy that gets the plays of the defense and one of the most important players on that Rams defense that led them to the Super Bowl. Hopefully next year they can just get the job done. But Corey Littleton is on the right path and on that straight path to a great career in the NFL.
Yeah, and you said that there's a lot of superstars on that Rams defense. He's one of that quiet ones. He's not a superstar yet, but he is a star. And, Reno, we are done with this top 10 from 70 to 61. This week we started with back-to-back quarterbacks, and next week we're going to do the same. They got a little bit more age on them, but we're going to start with back-to-back quarterbacks. We have a Twitter, and so you should go follow it. It's at Fully Charged Pod, and we're part of at The Fan Weekly. That's another handle you should go follow. I'm Lorenzino Estrada.
I am Reno Del Toro.
And that was Fully Charged. Have a good one, everybody.